Hey guys, this is Jonathan McCormack. I'm an attachment specialist in New York, and you can find me at attachmenthealinghelp.com. I just like to talk about hope and hopelessness. I hear hopelessness a lot, and it has a lot to do with attachment theory. People don't understand why they're feeling so hopeless, and they don't even know what hope is. And they don't know how to treat their hopelessness either. They see their hopelessness as an enemy. When they feel hopeless, they feel like this separates them from the rest of humanity, but it doesn't. That hopelessness is so normal. People ask me, is this normal to feel hopeless? It is, especially in treatment. As you begin to get better and feel safer, you'll feel safe to recognize certain things like how emotionally devastated you are, how lonely you are, the depths of what you've missed out on. You feel safer to get in touch with that pain. We all have a great deal of pain in a reservoir that's waiting there. And part of our healing is to grieve through it. I'm always quoting poets and thinkers and writers show that you're not alone. This hopelessness can connect you to others. You're not alone in this hopelessness. I've been hopeless. Um, I never knew how to think of hope, though. To me, I mean, what is that? Is that just vaguely wishing something to happen? Uh, I've seen people and their children are sick and they hope that they'll get better. What does that mean? What does that mean? And does that change anything? And also, is hope a good thing? Is hopelessness a bad thing? I spent my life studying suffering, and as I was taken by the Greeks, you know their story of hope. Pandora, a couple different versions. The gal gets curious, steals the box from Zeus. The box has all the ills in the world, from heartache to a toothache to death itself. And she opens the box, and evil after evil after evil is loosed into the world. And Zeus sees this, but right before the very last thing gets out, he commands her to shut the box and give the box to mankind. And the last thing that was in that box was hope. And so man takes that box gratefully and usually takes it, puts them under their bed, close to their families, and that's where their hope lives. Well, that's the revelation. That's the story that welled up from mankind's unconsciousness or came from wherever. And this was so powerful. It seems so true that men and civilizations were partially patterned over its logic. But then the philosophers start thinking, what the hell does that mean? What does this thing mean? Why is hope in the box of evils? And why does Zeus give it to mankind? Why would he even do that? It doesn't make sense. Well, they came up with various answers. But essentially, they came to the conclusion that hope is in the box of evils because hope isn't evil. In fact, hope was the last thing because hope is the greatest evil because it prolongs the pain of mankind. You're hoping that he'll change. You're hoping for this. You're hoping for that. And you're living for it. That never happens. And then you hope for something else. I mean, I live in America, and it's just filled with people that are tormented by the hopes and dreams Hollywood and TV has been selling them of romance and adventure, tormenting them of this frustration, an entire industry to this sticking knife in their desires, agitating them. Um, Why did the gods give us hope? To keep us alive, to keep us in the game, to keep us playing their game. Said the Greeks, Nietzsche was all about this, because the gods knew that we would never have dignity, would live this life. We would say, no, this is unfair. I come here, all my loved ones die, taken with sickness. I see the injustice in the world. Absolutely. Why would I play this game? And the gods say, oh, here's hope. Here's hope. And so mankind just keeps going on and on and on, this ridiculous game. That was the Greeks. Christianity has its own version of hope. Meister Eckhart said, what keeps us alive? What allows us to endure? He said, I think it is the hope of loving and of being loved. And in the West, it's the Sermon on the Mount, right? Blessed is this, blessed is that. By blessed, he doesn't mean happy, because he says, blessed are the mournful. That doesn't sound very happy. That idea is kind of like, you don't want to hope for riches here. You don't want to hope for much. But your hope is kind of on this promise. This hope is that you're, in Christianity, like a son of God. The hope is that you're going to be with him, the great beloved. The hope is that you're on this journey and that you will make it. After the Sermon on the Mount, probably the most famous sermon would be the Fire Sermon by Buddha. In fact, there's a translation of that by Henry Clark Warren that is one of the greatest poems ever written. It's phenomenal. This is how it goes. I'll just read it quick. But he says, all things, O priests, are on fire. And what, O priests, are all these things which are on fire? The eye, O priests, is on fire. Forms are on fire. Eye consciousness is on fire. Impressions received by the eye are on fire, and whatever sensation, pleasant or unpleasant or indifferent, originates in dependence on impressions received by the eye, that also is on fire. And with what are these on fire? With the fire of passion, I say, with the fire of hatred, with the fire of infatuation, with birth, old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, misery, grief, and despair are they on fire. The ear is on fire, sounds are on fire. The nose is on fire, odors are on fire. The tongue is on fire, tastes are on fire. The body is on fire, things tangible are on fire. The mind is on fire, ideas are on fire. Mind consciousness is on fire. Impressions received by the mind are on fire. Whatever sensation, pleasant, unpleasant, indifferent, originates in dependence on impressions received by the mind, that also is on fire. And he goes on. He does not have like a super hopeful conception of what you can hope for in this life. He just doesn't. And there's actually a whole psychology of hope. Martin Seligman, that guy wrote Authentic Happiness. He's like the happiness guy. He says like there's a tenfold increase in depression among the boomers. Why? Well, he thinks because the boomers are the first generation to focus on their own pleasure in life. By doing that, they kind of start to conceive the world in a certain way. There's three ways that people interpret what happens to them. A lot of people get stuck because of this, and they feel hopeless, this idea of hopelessness. They can either think what just happened to me is permanent. I am a depressive. I am. And actually attaches my identity. And the way things have been are the way things will always be. Or temporary. Those are just patterns. Those are things, that's how it used to be. Let's start thinking about how things are going to be, how we want them. Let's set an intention. People can see things as specific or universal. In other words, well, yes, this happened and this applies to this problem, or this happened and that's true of everything. That's true of everything. Say, I didn't get this, I never get anything. You can view things as internal, it's my fault. External, it's the world's fault. And the main thing that you're going to do if you do hope therapy, it's actually called hope therapy, is you try to get your goals clear about the future and the route to pursue those goals. And you reframe obstacles instead of obstacles. These are things to overcome. This is very difficult. I mean, I try to get people to form an intention, and it is difficult, So, like, you're depressed. What do you want? I want to be not depressed. You have to draw a picture for the unconscious to understand something. Not depressed. The unconscious just hears depressed. So, what's the opposite of depressed? Whatever, happy. Okay, I want to be happy. What does that look like? You have to draw a picture, and they'll say something very vague. I'd be feeling good. Forget about your feelings. What would it look like? What would friends see do? And you can eventually get some things like, okay, this is how I see myself. I see myself popping out of bed, uh, enthusiastic, and taking my dog out for a walk for an hour instead of 5 minutes. I see myself doing X, Y, Z. We're painting a picture. But I'm telling you, as you speak about these things, you will constantly be shifting into the past. You will constantly be looking backwards at how things have been. And even me, when I do it with my own therapists, I'll say, how do you want it to be? I'm like, well, I want it to be X, Y, Z. Because usually it's like X, Y, and I'll just go on and on and on and on. And I'm like, this way, look forward. And people are hopeless, don't look at their goals. It's very difficult. And people resist it. They have a reason. They have a reason not to get better. So I'll say, your life's, say a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at? Where you want your life to be? And they're like, like a 3. So, all right, I have no idea what a 10 would look like. I get that. What would it take to look like a 4? Just a little better. What would it look to be a little bit better? You have to do hope in baby steps, And a lot of times, even that's difficult. They just have a hard time. Well, I don't know, picking up the phone more. You'd see yourself when you go out to coffee, chatting with a stranger. I mean, specific things. It cannot be vague. It cannot be general. So, and I like this. It's kind of like solution focused therapy when you're not focused on the failures. I did this wrong. I did that wrong. No. You're focused on the successes. You're looking forward. That kind of hope can work. In fact, they did studies where they had parents with dying children with this hope therapy, and you'd think like, well, but they would change their goal. So the goal would be at first, of course, for their child to live forever. And then as things turn out how they do, they'd relinquish that goal as no longer attainable and adopt another goal, perhaps alleviating suffering, but it's realistic. Rick Snyder, by the way, is the guy who does hope theory. It basically has 3 components. You have goals that you feel invested in. That can be anything: having a close, loving family, finding a love partner, success at work. But you have these goals. Number 2, you believe you have the ability to achieve these goals. That's agency, and that's something that needs to be developed. And then you can find multiple pathways to achieving goals. You can envision yourself moving forward. This is not optimism. There's a psychologist, Charles Carver, and he goes, optimism is basically a general expectation that good things will happen in the future. It's literally, well, no, how the hell does that make sense? What makes you think that? Have you not been on this planet long enough to know that really might not happen? Hope is different. It's an attitude. It's just a way of being open to the world. But there are a lot of researchers so interesting. They say, well, for hope even to arise, individual first needs to perceive the possibility of success. Is it even possible that this relationship would work out? Is it even possible that someone loved me? Is it possible that I could be enough for someone? You have to see that. That's hard. I do ideal parent figure protocol. We kind of imagine the ideal parents come in and they see that. They see you as lovable. They see you that. They see that, and you practice that receiving, being delighted in, receiving support. We're practicing in the body, you feel somatically. and this is a real sickness. Even in Proverbs, it says hope deferred makes the heart sick. Absolutely, heart is sick. I always liked, Havel, that guy, Václav Havel, the Czech playwright. He was like a dissident, like a artsy guy, but then he became president. So he has this famous essay on hope, often quoted. And he says, hope is a dimension of the soul, and it's not essentially dependent on some particular observation in the world. He says this: hope is an orientation of the spirit, an orientation of the heart. It transcends the world that's immediately experienced. It's anchored somewhere beyond the horizons. That's important. Hope, in this deep and powerful sense, is not the same thing as joy that things are going well, or willingness to invest in enterprises that are obviously heading for early success, but rather an ability to work for something because it is good, not because it stands a chance to succeed. Hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but certainty that something makes sense, regardless of how it turns out. It is hope above all, which gives strength to live and continually try new things. So he wrote that, and he was in prison for a while. So he knew what he was talking about, and he didn't know if he was getting out. As a great guy, you can look him up. But I do like this, the way he says it, because first of all, it's anchored somewhere else. It's not in the world. It's an orientation. And it's kind of like, I know people, and I can't tell them, like, when they come to me, oh, you're going to be secure, you're going to have secure attachment, and then you're going to find someone, and this person's going to be the love of your life, and you're going to live happily ever after. That doesn't happen for a lot of people, so why would they do this? You would do this if you thought this was a beautiful way of living, if this is a good thing to do, that you will be made better, and if you're made better, that's best for the world. You'd have more compassion, more love. You'd be less activated. And that this makes sense. This way of life, going in this direction, is just a good way to go, regardless if you ever find love, regardless if you ever find someone, regardless. Hopefully you will. That'd be nice. That is indeed a motivating hope. In other words, you're open to it, and you're making room in your heart for that possibility. Slowly, like, the self-hatred, self-recrimination, and you're clearing that out, make a space in your heart that it can be filled with that love. And that's the best way to live. That's kind of what it's about. And actually, very few psychologists talk about it, but Erik Erikson was one of them. And he was the first one to say hope is actually really tied to attachment and how you attach, how you love. He actually said hope is both the earliest and most indispensable virtue inherent in the state of being alive. If life is to be sustained, hope must remain, even where confidence is wounded, trust impaired. So he thought hope was all about trust. And if you had an early childhood when you couldn't trust, you probably aren't a very hopeful person. And actually, he even writes about, he goes, closely related to trust is the capacity to form effective attachment to others, including God. That's what he wrote. And there's a guy, Dr. Snyder, he did a lot of work in this. He actually says, this is a quote from him: attachment is a key factor in the rise of hope. I would add that attachment often is critical for the fall of hope. You ever meet hopeless people? Yeah. They've been wounded, they've been betrayed. So he says that attachment builds an environment where children learn to think of themselves as successful, as pursuing their goals. Hope's fostered by their psychological needs getting met. And in the ideal parent program, it takes a couple months, but if people are doing this at least weekly, perhaps even daily, it's like a meditation practice, imagining ideal parents, just loving them when we're doing parts work, whatever, sending compassion, love to your wounded parts. Yeah, you start looking at yourself as competent, you start treating hopelessness believe it or not, as a friend. Probably your attitude to your hopelessness is, this is awful. This is hellish. This is, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. And yet there's a way you can befriend that hopeless. At least try and look at it neutrally. And just by looking at it neutrally, you can actually change the emotional experience of it and practice compassion. So the big thing about hope is you have some self-determination. For that, you need to be in contact with yourself, right? Yeah, yourself. Big S, in IFS, they talk about, the thing that's compassionate and loving and creative and spontaneous, that self. And so usually it's about three things. If you want a hopeful perspective, you need to experience competence. I'm competent, I'm good at something. Relatedness and autonomy. I have some freedom, I'm related. There's other needs as well. Safety, for instance. Well, it's difficult to feel hopeful when you feel incompetent, uncared for, and unable to control your life. Pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. That's a harsh environment to grow hope in. So you're practicing meeting basic psychological needs gradually, and that creates confidence and facilitates hope. Actually, it's funny. John Gottman, the marriage guy, is great. He thinks hope, it almost, a marriage depends on that, because you do need to encourage one another's dreams and aspirations. Even with friendship, practicing hope is a big part of friendship. What was Cicero say? True friendship holds out good hope. So I know a lot of people don't like themselves. They even think they hate themselves. That's just a part of you that hates yourself. There's another part of you that loves yourself. Believe me. That I don't like the word love, but has compassion, true compassion, not empathy, true compassion. It knows how to take care of you, an inner nurturer, let's say. So they're like, no, I don't want to befriend my hopelessness. I don't want to befriend anything. But if not for you, you can befriend this hopelessness for the good of the world. Because I know, a lot of people with attachment problems, they'll do anything for someone else and like nothing for themselves. If you're that type, especially anxious. But this is something, if you befriend your hopelessness, this can prepare you for a future love. Just be motivated. I know you don't want to, because you're like, I hate myself, I don't deserve it. That's number one reason. Number two, no. If I feel hopeful, that'll mean my crappy life was okay. And what happened to me was okay. No, absolutely. That's not what I'm saying. If you become hopeful, everything that happened still was not okay. The question is, where do you want to witness that from? Do you want to witness that not being okay from a place of hope and strength, or a place of being crippled? Either way, it's not okay what happened. We're not justified. That's not what happens. So it's a decision. It's a decision. What is a decision? It's a decision that I'm going to be open to the possibility of love. The possibility. Even if I never find anyone, I'm living towards the possibility. This is my way of being. And that's the best thing for the entire world, actually, not just you, for your kids, for your family, for everyone. I tell you, when you're unloved, what else can you do but prepare for love? Prepare, clean out your heart, make yourself ready, ready yourself. Even if it never happens, at least you're readying yourself. Yeah. Czesław Milowicz, he was a great Polish poet, which I love. When people get hopeless, they get into like this dark isolation, but I'm telling you, you are in a beautiful community. People's victories are different, people's loves are different, but their sufferings, that's what really connects us. So you had this poem, which I relate to: were I not frail and half broken inside. Were I not frail and half broken inside, I wouldn't be thinking of them who are like me, half broken inside. I would not climb the cemetery hill by the church to get rid of my self-pity. Crazy Sophies, Michaels who lost every battle. self-destructive Agathas lie under crosses with their dates of birth and death. And who is going to express them? Their mumblings, weepings, hopes, tears, and humiliation. In hospital muck and the smell of urine, with their weak and contorted limbs, an eternity close by, improper, indecent, like a dollhouse crushed by wheels, like an elephant trampling a beetle, an ocean drowning an island. Our stupidity and childness do nothing to fit us for this variety of last things. They had no time to grasp anything of their individual lives, any principium individualis, nor do I grasp it, yet what can I do? Enclosed all my life in a nutshell, trying in vain to become something completely different from what I was. Thus we go down into the earth, my fellow parishioners, with the hope that the trumpet of judgment call us by our names, instead of eternity, greenness, and the movement of clouds. They rise then, thousands of Sophias, Michaels, Matthews, Marias, Agathas, Bartholomew's. So at last they know why and for what reason. I like that because, yeah, like who's going to speak for these people? Who was going to witness to them? And that's like us. Like we can do that. We can witness to pain and to suffering if we abide in hope. We have the ability to do that. You know. But real healing always happens in a relationship. I know people with attachment want to get the meditations and just sit home by themselves. But, Anthony Scaloli is a great researcher. He says, to experience a full measure of hope, an individual must perceive a living presence that can give as well as receive. Give and receive, that's love. But I tell you, it doesn't have to be romantic love. There's all sorts of loves out there. Rollo May, it's romantic love, care, lust, friendship. Stephen Proust did a whole book on. There's altruistic love, beneficence, compassion, sympathy, on and on and on. And that's all our options. Just seeing that grocer was like exhausted, and we just like looking like, hey, I get it, I'm a human too. Boom, we made that connection. Van Gogh was interesting because he was kind of like a fearful, avoidant guy, and one of my favorite painters. But he has a great painting of a boat. I just want to share my screen. Can I do that? Yeah, hopefully you can see that. Oops. So he did this boat, which is amazing. And I know it doesn't look like much, but just check this out. Look at this boat. Very simple colors, red, green, black. They're solid. And then around here, everything is a movement. Look at the sky moving over. Look at the waves coming up, almost threatening the boats. Yeah. But where are they tethered? Where are they attached? He painted this in ill health. They're attached somewhere on the land where we can't see. That's their attachment. Their attachment is far beyond the horizon. Just like Hevel said, it's somewhere transcendent. I don't know where it is, but this hope pulls me to it. And that's where they're anchored. And that really is my favorite. Well, it's not my favorite Van Gogh. My favorite is probably, I like this one. Speaking of hope, he once said that the color yellow was the color of hope. And now, psychologically, people who prefer yellow are actually more likely to be schizophrenic. I'm just saying. Okay. But I do like this because, obviously this is the Lazarus, the story in the Bible, being raised, and his sister. And you just see this glorious sun. And this is when he started bringing yellow, the thought of new life. I just love that. This is a drawing I did just on hopelessness. And that's me as Judas. Judas was the guy in the Bible who betrayed Jesus, hung himself. And there's a snake, and there's a demon, and he's hung, and the skin is falling off. And this is hopelessness. It's at the end. There's no more future. There's nothing to do. And you need to cultivate, and you can, um, this feeling of hope. Um, by the way, Van Gogh is probably, borderline, probably. If you look at the statistics, 75% of people with BPD attempt suicide. 75%. 10% die by it. And of course, Van Gogh at the end probably, probably killed himself. I probably, let's just say probably. But he had this great thing, if you read his letters, because Van Gogh, you probably don't know, but like, he was like the loneliest guy on the planet. He had like no friends. He made no money with his paintings. He was an utter failure. He had a brother, and his brother just supported him all the time, and he felt miserable, and he felt like the lowest scum, that he couldn't even make a living as a man. So but what just touched me, I read this. This is in his letters. He says, or he's writing to his brother. Van Gogh says, "This broke my heart. Fate seems able to put a barrier against the instincts for affection, or a tide of revulsion that overcomes you. And then you say, 'How long, O Lord?' Well, then what can I say? Does what go on inside show on the outside? Someone has a great fire in his soul, and nobody ever comes to warm themselves at it. And passers-by see nothing but a little smoke at the top of the chimney, and they go their way. In the springtime, a bird in a cage knows very well that there's something he'd be good for. He feels very clearly there is something to be done, but he can't do it. What it is, he can't clearly remember. And he has vague ideas and says to himself, the others are building their nests and making their little ones, raising their brood. And he bangs his head against the bars of his cage. And then the cage stays there. And the bird is mad with suffering. What makes the prison disappear is very deep, serious attachment. To be friends, to be brothers, to love. That opens the prison through sovereign power, through most powerful spell. But he who doesn't have that remains in death. That was a lot. That was a lot darker than I thought. That I remember that quote. But he lived it. And what I liked about that? He goes, the bird is just banging his head. That's what a great deal of expressionistic personal art is. Everyone looks at Van Gogh and says, oh, this is amazing. I love it. Don't you understand? That's the sound his head made cracking against the cage of his isolation. And people love it. They call it music and painting and art. It's just him screaming for something to push back. And he got involved with like a prostitute, pretended to be the dad. Good Lord, his love life was just so tragic. Dr. Paul Prussier, he says that hope is not something that can be lost or taken away. He says hope is a state of being rather than condition of having. It's just the way you are. The problem though, and this happens, I see people getting stuck, is when hopes transform into expectations. The belief that, if I'm positive and hopeful and I take actions toward the desired outcome, it will bear fruit. And I hear that all the time. You have to believe in yourself. That, listen, the unconscious has no idea what that means. No idea. You can hope, and that means your heart is open for it. And you're living in a way that is open for it and that honors that and expresses it. But you're not expecting it, I know we all really are, but this is not what it's about. This is not where all our energy is going, because that will just be frustration. You'll be putting all this energy towards this expectation and nothing will be happening. And the mind and body will get very depressed because it's doing something completely useless and not getting a result. Specifically when it comes to hope and attachment, there's, specific things. What can yield hopelessness that can affect attachment is first alienation. Alienated people always feel there's something different about them, you know. They often feel that they're no longer deemed worthy of love. And so they kind of just shut them off. The further pain of rejection is just too much. It's too much. The second one is forsakenness. That has to do with attachment and survival. And that's like this feeling that you've just been abandoned, all alone, you know. I mean, this is like biblical forsaken. I have been forsaken. Wow. But I felt like that, you know. I mean, walk around. This person is that. That person is this. I got nobody. What does that mean? I guess God don't love me, you know. Um, the other one is a feeling of captivity and survival and attachment. There's two forms of hopelessness associated with that. One is just when you're physically captive, right? I mean, you might have physical ailments. People don't talk about it. Really hard to get into a relationship when you have these. People are in a lot of pain. They have this, they have that. And you feel trapped in your body. That can lead to hopelessness. The other one is being trapped in a relationship, you know, and um, and you just feel stuck and captive, and I can't get out, and I don't have the strength to do it, and just that hole keeps getting deeper and deeper. So I'll do a meditation, but first I just want to quote Nick Cave. I love Nick Cave, the musician. He lost his child a couple of years ago. Beautiful meditations on it. And he talks about how that's the first time he actually felt hope. He really didn't know what it was before there. And this is what he says: unlike cynicism, hopefulness is hard earned, makes demands upon us, and can often feel like the most indefensible and lonely place on earth. Hopefulness is not a neutral position either, it's adversarial. It is a warrior motion that can lay waste to cynicism. Each redemptive or loving act, as small as you like, keeps that devil down the hole. Says to the world and its inhabitants have value and are worth defending. Says the world is worth believing in. And in time, we come to find that indeed it is so, you know. So it's something, as he says, that needs to be struggled for. And I think it's something worthy. So we can just do a meditation on hope. Maybe like 5 minutes or something. So just get embodied. Just notice your body. Start bringing your awareness into your body. Start bringing your awareness down, down, down deep into your body in the meditative posture with your back straight but loose, shoulders back, chest up, feet firmly planted on the ground. And we're going to start with 3 deep breaths. Take a super deep breath. Hold it below the belly. And slowly release. Good. Now another super breath. Hold it below the belly. And slowly release. Good. Last one. Super deep breath. Hold below the belly and slowly release. And now, just getting a little closer, a little more intimate with our bodies, I would invite you to do a body scan. And you can just focus your awareness right on your forehead. And you just notice any tension there. Then we move our awareness down to the eyes, softening the eyes, moving it down around the cheeks, softening the cheeks. You feel it moving in your jaw, softening all the muscles of the jaw. And a wave of warm, loving awareness pours down your neck, into your shoulders, down your back, down your torso, going down your body, down, down, down. You just open up and make your belly soft. Loosen the hips. Now a wave of warmth rolls down your legs. Just noticing. Down your calves, all the way down to your feet, firmly planted on the ground, like roots of a tree. Good. And now, think of a time when you were very hopeful. Just the attitude just being open for something. And if you can, perhaps you remember someone you know who's very hopeful, who's open to the future. Perhaps it could be a character in a book. You remember a time when you were just open to things? Remember that? Be there now. Be there now. Notice everything that's happening. And being hopeful is opening up to the possibility, just to the possibility. How does that feel in your body? Perhaps you can move your awareness into your chest, right around your heart, and thinking of being hopeful, feeling hopeful. Does that change how it feels around your heart? Does your heart soften, quicken? Just notice the changes in your heart. And now you're going to breathe in. And when you breathe in, there'll be a glorious, beautiful light, a bright orange light. And you breathe in, and it enters you, and it moves down your throat, and it moves right to your heart. Yes. You breathe in again, and you take in more light right to your heart. Yeah. And a third time, you breathe in, and your chest fills with light. Yes. And you can just notice the light swirling around your heart, and the light's looking for a place, and the light is clearing a place, and the light is moving the darkness away. And now there's a space in your heart, and there's a space there. And you just focus on this space and try to send it love, send it compassion. This space has not been open. It has not felt sun in ages. And you can just feel the warmth, like rays of the sun beating right down into your chest. And everything is softening. And your heart is softening. And the softening spreads to the rest of your body. And your body is soft and filled with light. And you feel your heart beat. And you breathe in and your heart fills with compassion. And you breathe out for healing for the world. Breathe in and opening yourself. Breathe out peace for the entire world. And you breathe in, and the power of love spreads throughout your body. And you breathe out, and you pray for justice, for life. And you breathe in, and you're filled with courage. And you breathe out, and love flows to the world. And you breathe in, and it's healing. And you breathe out, and it's love. And you breathe in, and it's peace. And you breathe out, and it's strength. And you breathe in and out, and you just notice your breath flowing from your heart to the world. From your heart to the, and then you move that energy from your heart through your chest, up through your throat, through your neck, up into your head, all the way up into the crown of your head. And now it's connected, and your mind and your heart are connected by a sacred golden light. And your mind is being filled with this love, and your thoughts are being filled with this love. And your mind is being cleared and updated only to entertain the thoughts that are valuable, that are loving. And you feel this pulse from your heart to your mind, from your head to your heart, from your heart back to your head. And this is an entire economy and flowing circle of loving compassion. And it's moving. And you just abide in it. And you breathe in, and you breathe in hope. And you breathe out. You breathe out love. And now, with the body remembering to anchor this feeling of hope deep inside, you might even be delighted to notice the sensation of hope arising in your body as you go throughout your day in the future. And knowing you've had enough time to make this hope the foundation of your identity, you take your time. You take your own time. And when you're ready, you come back. You come back. And you can open your eyes. Yeah. Okay, guys. So that's my big spiel on hope. I hope you dug it. Any other suggestions, let me know. Jonathan McCormack. Take it easy.